Welcome to Girl Talk. My name is Caroline, and I have three guests with me here today who I will give them the opportunity to introduce themselves. Christy.
Hi, I'm Christy Simon. I go to Trinity Christian School and I attend St. Mark's Coptic Orthodox Church.
Hi, I'm Farida Hanna. I also go to Trinity Christian School and I attend FCC.
Hi, I'm Zoe Powers. I attend Trinity Christian School and I also go to FCC.
Why don't you guys tell them what FCC stands for?
So FCC is Fairfax Community Church. So it's basically just a non-denominational, very large church.
That's great. So in this episode today, we are going to be talking and discussing future goals that these young ladies have had some time to think about. As Christians, we know and we understand that God plans our lives for us, but the Lord also gives us opportunity and gifts to plan our lives and set goals. And of course, everything would be done under the guidance of the Lord Himself. But we want to have some fun here today in this episode and just talk about, things that they've come up with based on their talents, their gifts, their desires, their passions. And we hope that some of these questions you can think about too. So Farida, do you have an ultimate goal in life?
Yeah, so kind of to give some background for it, I started getting into this YouTube channel called Yes Theory. And so their motto, their slogan is Seek Discomfort. I'm wearing their merch right now. But basically what they seek to do is push people out of their comfort zone so that people can connect more. And so one of their episodes, I guess, they asked two people from completely different parts of the world to swap their lives for 72 hours. So if someone came up to you and was like, switch lives with someone from Sweden, you would probably say, no thanks. I don't know what you're trying to do here. But even though they're not a Christian channel, and I'm not sure if all of them are Christian or not, or if I know one of them is Muslim, but just the way that they look at the world, and you can see God intervening within their videos. It's crazy. The people that they meet, it's almost like God put them there for that specific reason. And so it's just saying yes. So that's why it's called Yes Theory, and it's just going out of that comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So when they ask someone to switch lives with someone else, they ask someone from Texas to switch lives with someone from Sweden. And after searching for so long, they ended up doing that. And it turns out the person from Sweden is actually a motivational speaker, and he got to have his dream realized by speaking to Americans, which was his absolute goal. Mm-hmm. And so I just think that's so beautiful to connect people in such a way that it's so unconventional, mm-hmm. but it's just by taking that step that you wouldn't usually take. Or if someone, they went into Lyft and Uber and they asked them if they wanted to go skydiving just that day, drop every other plan that you have and just go skydiving. Mm-hmm. And just that spontaneity is just so inspiring. And I just I think that is my ultimate goal. I should just say yes to the things coming towards me and just really seek discomfort and really grow out of my comfort zone and try to just connect with people from other cultures and from just different parts of the world, and just to have love between us all, I guess. So
Wow, that's a very mature outlook. I don't think a lot of people even my age would even have a goal like that. I love that. So Zoe, what is your ultimate goal in life?
That's a great question. I'm very passionate about the environment. Environmentalism is something I'm committed to in my life, and what I'm most interested in is sharks. I really like shark conservation, and I think it's an area of study that's really understudied, and it needs a lot more work. People have villainized sharks. They think that they're killing machines and that they're people who've lost arms and legs, and there's this terrifying theory about sharks that they're evil. And I really don't think that's the case. I think that sharks are kind of like big puppies. They can't really understand what's around them, and so they kind of use their mouths. But because of movies like Jaws, there's this terrifying idea surrounding them. And I want to stress the importance of sharks to the ecosystem, to the oceans, to the bays, to all the waterways around the world, that sharks are just this huge part of the ecosystem. And the biggest issue surrounding sharks right now is illegal shark finning. Shark meat is a huge industry. It's used in Chinese medicine. What's most important about that is that there are laws in place, but it's very difficult to enforce them. So my ultimate goal in life is to protect sharks. I want to create this new stigma about sharks, that they are not in fact evil, that they are not malicious creatures, but in fact that they're very important, that they are good and they are a part of God's creation. God put them on this earth for a reason, and that because they are God's creatures, they should be protected. So that's pretty much my ultimate goal.
Wow, Zoe, you gave me a little bit of a different perspective on sharks. We're going to have to talk more about it so I can have a heart for them. Christy, what is your ultimate goal in life?
I would say, personally, I think that God has a specific purpose for everyone's life, and so just fulfilling that purpose would be my goal in life. And I think the way I can do that is through medicine. So I have a passion for studying medicine. I definitely want to go into the medical field in college, and there's definitely a lot of different branches that you could go into, and I'm not entirely sure which one yet, but just that ability to help other people and use how much we've discovered in recent years to be able to help people who suffer through so many sicknesses and diseases. And I think that's something that God has placed on my heart. So,
wow, you're gonna save some lives, improve some lives.
yeah.
I think we as Christians sometimes have a misconception that we can't have too much fun. And I don't think that that's what God intended when he created us. In Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 9, it says, for the young people, follow your heart and do what you enjoy. And of course, I'm paraphrasing, but it's also under the guidance and the judgment of God. It's not to step outside his will. So with that said, does anyone here have a bucket list? And do they want to share what is on their bucket list?
I have two main things. The first thing is I want to go skydiving. I have a fear of heights, and I really want to overcome that. And I think jumping out of the plane would do that. And also the second thing, kind of going back to what Zoe's saying, I really want to go like cage diving. I don't know if that's what it's called.
Yeah, you got it.
And so I just want to see, like, I'm so fascinated by like the world underneath, I guess, in the sea, and just like snorkeling, and you just find like an entire like city almost, and it's just completely different. I don't like fish. I'm actually pretty scared of fish, but I do want to have that experience where like just sharks are going all around me, and I'm in a place where I'm just like the adrenaline's rushing, like I can't breathe. I'm using an oxygen tank, just something like that.
Okay, so skydiving was not on my bucket list, but I did go skydiving.
Really?
Yes, I did, and I have a video, and I can show it to you. And it was Caitlin's 18th birthday wish. She wanted us, the family, to go skydiving together. So flying out of the plane was exhilarating. There is a rush that you get that I did not expect. And it was not as scary as I thought it was going to be. And I actually had this fear that the minute I jump off the plane, I'm going to like just descend. But it's not like that. You actually you feel like you're flying. So I think my biggest challenge with skydiving was being strapped to someone, because of course I'm not experienced enough to do it on my own. So I had to be strapped to someone the entire time. And that to me is where the discomfort was. So you might have to check it off your bucket list when you turn 18, but I hope Mom and Dad are not watching this episode. Christy, what do you have on your bucket list?
For me, I have a passion to travel. So on my bucket list, I'd like to hit not every country, obviously, but majority of countries from every different continent and various cultures. I think it's really cool just to see the different ways people live. And I've been to Europe, I've been to Africa, and I've been to Central America. So I think every place I go, it's so fascinating to me to see how different people live and how what we experience in the United States is such a small bubble. And just people are not as privileged as we are in the United States, but they still manage to have this like gratefulness for what they do have. And so for me, when I grow up, I would love to travel like all across the world. So
that's exciting. That's great. Yeah.
For me, I have a huge passion for languages. I'm a French speaker. My mom is fluent, so she taught me from a very young age. And what I would like to do is I'd like to take my message about sharks all around the world so that we can have a global understanding. I think the biggest thing to impact change is to teach people. And if you aren't sent out to teach people, then your message isn't going to spread. So I'd love to go on a world tour someday and visit different places and, talk about the important parts of the ecosystem.
That's great. You ladies have fascinating ideas. So do you have any role models in your life, like someone that you really look up to, someone that inspires you, someone that helps make you a better person, someone that you would like to emulate?
So my person would be Sylvia Earle. She is one of the most profound female marine biologists. She's the director of several boards concerning marine biology. She's an amazing diver, and she's going around the world spreading the message about the ocean. And I want to have the courage to be a strong woman in science. I want to have the ability to make an impact in a male-dominated industry and bring my own flair and my own zest to something that typically isn't seen as very interesting. And I think that she is one of the most incredible people, and she has a unique gift in the field that she's in.
I'm sensing that we're sitting with someone who's going to be famous one day. And we're going to need your autograph today before this episode ends. Christy, do you have any role models?
I would have to say my sister, honestly, because growing up, she's definitely someone that I've always just looked up to, and just her confidence in every situation. And everyone goes through things, but the way she keeps going no matter what she encounters is definitely something that I want to reflect in my life. And just she has a really kind heart, and so she has this way that even when people wrong her, she's still so forgiving. And so that's something that I definitely want to have in my life.
Oh, I hope Katrina watches this episode. Yeah. Katrina, if you're watching, what an honor that your sister emulates you. Farida?
I would say the guys that I mentioned earlier on Yes Theory. I think they're just their fearlessness with which they live their lives, and their worldview is just so strong, I think, in the way that they look at every person instead of just being, oh, it's just another person. No, it's another human being with a life, with passions, with dreams and ideas, and just living every life is a gift from God. And we sometimes forget that. We sometimes just go through the motions, and we're on autopilot all the time, just doing the routine. But you have to understand that every day is a gift. And so just the way that they live their lives like that, I want to be able to live my life like that.
I like that you have set your minds on people who are making a difference and who step outside their comfort zone to make that difference. And, for you looking up to someone who has a voice, as you said, in a male industry, that's very challenging, and it's very hard to overcome that. But I believe with your faith and your passion, you can definitely accomplish that goal and achieve that goal. And I really love, Christy, how your sister has been a role model for you, because, growing up together, sisters have their highs and lows, ups and downs, but it seems like you've survived them all. And she's someone that inspires you. And I'm sure if I was to ask her, I have a feeling she would probably choose you. We'll have to ask her one day. And Farida, you really opened our eyes up to something so different right now that I actually need to go home and research this, because I think it's fascinating, and I love that. So thank you for joining us. We will be back after this short break. Welcome back to Girl Talk. If you're just tuning in right now, we are discussing future goals and what that looks like in the eyes of God. And these ladies here, I shared a lot of great views and gave me a fresh perspective on things to research. So ladies, there is a verse in Ephesians 2, chapter 10, where it says, we are his workmanship, and we were created by God to do good works. And I believe that that also means about the profession and the job that we need to start thinking about. And I know you haven't even gone to college yet, and I know once you're in college, majors will change, maybe not, maybe so, passions will change. But what would be your dream job? And do you feel that job would tie into this scripture that you are God's workmanship and you are doing his good work? So Christy, do you want to get us started?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, I want to go into the medical field, and there's many different branches, but I think that that's definitely a way to spread the gospel, because just encountering people every day and I think a lot of people draw closer to God through hardships, and obviously working in medicine, people are going to encounter things that might not be the best point of their lives, but I think being that light to them and just shedding light on the fact that God has a plan for everyone's life, and there is a reason why you're going through whatever it is you're going through. And I think that by the time I do practice medicine, that a lot of things will change as things are progressing into further and further away from Christianity, and so hard topics such like abortion or euthanasia. And I think that standing up for what I believe and not falling into that in the medical field would definitely be an example for others.
So as a doctor, and I guess the dream job would be to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And with that, how much does money play into that? Like making, doctors are known to make money. How important is money for you as for this dream job?
Personally, I don't think that money is really a factor in it. Obviously, everyone wants to be successful in some sort of way and be able to support a family, but for me, it's more about doing what you love to do. And so for me, there's a lot of jobs that offer even more money than being a doctor, and a lot of them are definitely you can get right out of college, or you don't have to go to grad school. There's a lot of ways to be successful, but I think for me it's doing what you love to do, because that's something that you're going to spend the rest of your life doing. And so having a job that's not an obligation, but it's a passion, I think is really important.
So with that said, if you had a few cases, not obviously all your cases, but a few cases of families that just cannot afford medical care, would you treat them?
Personally, I would love to treat them. I think it's definitely a growing issue here in the United States, and it's controversial of how we can have medical care for everyone, access to that for people who can't afford it. And there's definitely a lot of ideas on ways to help solve the issue, but I don't think anyone is going to agree on exactly how that can be carried out. But I would love to help people who can't afford it, because I think that you don't ask for things like cancer and diseases and all that stuff. You don't ask to have to pay for health care. And so I think it's really important that we take that into account and help whoever we can help with the resources that we have. So.
That's great. I know you're going to make a difference, Christy. We might need your autograph too. Farida, what about you? What's your dream job?
So mine's a little bit, I guess, unconventional, but I really want to be a criminal investigator and possibly work in forensics. I think for me, it's about I guess, giving comfort to the people who have been wronged, or if let's just take a murder scene, for example. I want to be able to solve that so I can give comfort to that person's family and have them just know how they died, and if it was I don't know, I feel like it's just such a burden if you don't know, and so knowing just takes that burden off, and at least you know that they're hopefully in a better place. And I think that's just my ultimate goal, and I know it's dealing with the sinful nature of man every day. And I know I've even talked to some of my teachers about it, and one of my teachers, her daughter has majored in that and works in that field, and for her it's taken a toll on her mental health and her worldview essentially, but it's something that I'm really passionate about, so I do hopefully want to continue doing that. So.
And you feel like that won't compromise your faith?
I hope not. I know that since it's dealing with that dark side, it's almost like every day you see something so horrible, how can man do this, and how can God allow this? But I think there's also the goodness, I guess, of it. You have to see the bad to understand the good, and you have to see how God saves, and the number of stories of God saving lives of the people in prison, of criminals, those are powerful stories, and they're so amazing. That's something that I want to be part of. So
that's great. That's wonderful. Zoe, what about you?
I definitely would love to be a marine biologist. That's something that God has written on my heart. And I think my biggest challenge with the faith would be going into a scientific field and making sure that I'm not compromising my faith. And the biggest comfort to me has been the creation mandate that's written in Genesis, that God has charged humanity to protect nature, that we are supposed to have dominion over nature and protect it. He gives the command to man, the same command he gives to animals: be fruitful and multiply. And we are supposed to protect nature in the same way that God is protecting of us. So that's really what God's charged me with.
That's great. Yeah, and I can see you upholding your faith through all that too. So as people think about their future, some people are scared. Some people are secure and confident. Is there anything about the future that scares you?
Personally, I'm terrified. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's in store for me. There's just so many unknowns, and I love to have everything planned out. I need to be able to see the whole picture, and I guess understanding that and knowing that, you know, God knows the whole picture and I don't, and His timing is different than my timing. It's been a huge challenge that I'm still facing today, but I know I need to overcome it and just trust in the Lord and what He has in store for me and the path that He has set for me, and also being open-minded. And if a door closes, not trying to force it open, but understanding that maybe God did that for a reason.
But are you ready for that? Like, let's say you've applied. I don't know if you have your heart set on one college that you really have to go to, but what if that college does not accept you?
It's going to be rough, but again, like, I know God has something in store, hopefully better for me.
So you have that backup plan with your faith, like you feel like if God shut that door.
I'll be disappointed, like, obviously, I think that's what we do, but I guess I still know that God is there, and it's not like He abandoned me and just left me without my dream college, but instead He said, that's not necessarily where I want you to be. I want you to be somewhere else.
That's good. That's a very good, healthy attitude to have right now, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
What about you, Christy? Is there anything about the future that scares you?
Yeah, I would agree with Frida. I think the most thing that scares me about the future is not knowing, because I like to know. Like, I'm that person that if you tell me something, I need to know why, like, or what. And I think for me, it's just, you hear about all these people that have a plan and then God calls them to something completely opposite that they never would have expected. And that scares me, because we all have things we want to do, and the fact that in one moment that could not be like the course of the rest of our life, that scares me. And I think we're facing that at a smaller scale right now with colleges, and just the fact that you have no idea where you're going next year and where you're going to spend the next 4 years of your life. Like, that's scary. But yeah, just knowing that God has a plan and He has your future planned out before you were even born. So I think that's something that is definitely very comforting as a Christian. So
I'm pretty certain. I feel like God has written a plan on my heart, and regardless of where I go to college or where I work, I'm going to pursue environmentalism. That's going to be my passion throughout my life. It's going to be something I pursue now as a young child, and then when I'm older as an adult, and then even when I'm old. It's something I'm going to be passionate about. My biggest concern right now is actually through culture. I'm worried that the questions that I'm asking now about the environment aren't going to be questions I'm going to have the opportunity to ask anymore. It's not going to be a matter of protecting the environment because there's going to be no environment left to protect. Because culture, we've become so stuck on consumerism that we've lost sight of what we're charged to do, which is to love creation. So that would be my biggest fear, is that my actions wouldn't be enough, and that eventually we are going to use the environment until there's nothing left. So I won't have a job, there won't be anything left to sustain, and I think that's a very bleak future.
Those are very valid concerns. You're right. Well, you all have goals. You all know what you want to go to college for. You have your dream jobs. What if after college, God calls you to go to the mission field out in Africa, Asia, into the Middle East, and He changes your plan a little bit? I mean, He probably comes and says to Christy, I know you want to be a doctor, But right now, I'm calling you to go serve in Zambia in the Coptic school and teach English to these little kids. How would you respond to that calling?
I definitely, if I'm being honest, it's going to be hard because we all have like kind of a set path in what we want to do. And so I think at first it would be something that I would definitely struggle with. But knowing that there's something better that God has in plan for me and in store for me is comforting, and knowing that whatever I do end up doing, like I said earlier, like your ultimate goal in life should be to fulfill God's purpose for you. And so if he has a different plan on how you're going to fulfill that purpose, that it's not going to be easy, but it's definitely something that you should pursue.
Mm-hmm. Farida, would you respond the same way?
I think for me, it depends on like if I have a family or not. Like I know if I was alone, I'd be like, I'd drop everything and I'd go. And I know like going there would be hard, and like actually like assimilating, I guess, to the culture is going to be hard. But I know for me, I'm going to struggle more if I have like kids that are going to school and a husband. And like for me, I know that's going to be a lot harder to think about, because you're not affecting your life at that moment, you're affecting everyone else's life. Right. And I know like God obviously has a plan, and he has a plan to take care of that. But I think for me, it's hard to get past that point.
That's true. And I believe that if God calls you to something, then he's going to complete it perfectly, because God's plan is always perfect. It's just hard for us to surrender our dreams, our goals, our will, and submit to the will of God, though we know the will of God is going to be the perfect outcome. So thank you, ladies, for being so honest and open, and I hope you enjoyed this episode with us today, and I really hope that we gave you some things to think about your future. Of course, knowing that God has the perfect plan for all of us, and ultimately, the greatest plan is that we're going to be in his kingdom. And I think that's what we look forward to, is we look forward to the kingdom that's coming. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you.